Hey there everybody, welcome back once again. It is July 28th, 2018, 4:29 p.m. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed those storm videos. I do like doing raw videos. They're a little bit harder to edit. The sound is a little different and off, but it's more about the visuals. Anyway, so I've been going back and forth with my buddy Norway Tracking down below. He's the one that's always in the comment section sending links and helping people out, which is really cool. Him and I decided to buy some mountain climbing equipment because guess what? We're about to climb a mountain to the peak of hurricane season. I'm just joking, obviously, but I wanted to show you this chart just to remind you guys that the beginning of August through September 10th is the climb to the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. Now they are backtracking a little bit on their forecast, saying that it might be a little more busy than usual. I've been getting a little bit of criticism for the sand that's been moving across from the desert on the west coast of Africa. And so be it. I mean, if the sand is keeping these storms from coming, then you know that's that much more time that we have to wait until we actually get one. But in my opinion, and in other opinions that I've talked to some people that know a lot more than me about weather and stuff like that. I still learn stuff every day. Actually, the smaller the particles, that can actually aid in storms. It's the big grains that actually calm them down. So there's a lot of back and forth with that. That's why I don't talk about it too much. I kind of just report on if there's big sands moving across the Atlantic Ocean. So, alright, with that said, again, August 1st, September 10th is the beginning of the peak of the season, and then basically to October 1st is our key time to watch for the Atlantic season. We're going to come back to hurricanes. I'm going to jump around a little bit here. I want you to look at our current temperatures, a little bit more mild in the northeast. That's because we have some weather going on. We got a big system moving its way across the central area of the country right now. We will show you that via radar maps and lightning charts, but we still have super hot temperatures. 105, that reading was actually 111. The 103 here was a 108. They're always lowballing down in this little area here, so just give or take 2 or 3 degrees as you move up north. As you move up north, you could probably take away 2 degrees as you get more towards the Caribbean, the Gulf, Caribbean, I mean down here, Southern California. You can go ahead and add 2 degrees on there easily. So, alright, on to the next topic. We're going to cover a lot of things here. We have a buoy activated, and it is near Alaska. I backed up a little bit here just to give you an idea of how many of these things we have in the ocean. We talk about this here. This thing is recognizing Tropical Depression GILMA. This is a Pacific storm. I don't know that this thing is going to form, but we do have 2 other storms that look like they really want to form and really want to get strong. Now, we don't know anything about landfall yet. We are just showing you what the data has for us to look at as of right now. The only earthquake I could find today, besides these that were on the 24th, which wouldn't make sense because those buoys only bounce for about 24 hours. So this had to have been within the last 24 hours, and the only earthquake I found was this 3.9, which was 23 miles deep. So for that to set off that buoy, I mean, I guess that's plausible. But it's the only thing I can think of. It's the only reading in this exact area where there was an earthquake. 3.9, pretty decent size, but at pretty fairly decent depths as well. I mean, we are talking about there is water, so a little bit of a water change can easily set off one of these buoys. In fact, if you click on it, I believe the difference in water level was like not even an inch. So, we're talking like you could blow on the water and make a wave an inch long, but it is something that these buoys pick up. I don't think it's anything to be worried about, but nonetheless, it is something to learn and to know about. If you ever see these buoys bouncing, take the time to look into it, because you never know. But like I said, these usually run about 24 hours before they're disabled or turned off once they're clear of any sort of warnings or danger. Alright, so we got that covered with the earthquake. Let's talk about the Pacific Ocean. So here is Tropical Depression GILMA. Now this is a tropical depression, but from what I can see on the other charts, sorry if that is coming through really loud, I'm adjusting the mic. According to a lot of the charts I'm seeing, this one's either going to break up or it's just going to kind of head out, you know, in the direction of Hawaii. I don't think it'll make it to Hawaii. And even these two right here, it's hard to tell if these are the two that I'm going to show you on Tropical Tidbits that end up being really significant hurricanes. In fact, I took a snapshot earlier in the day of one of these things with a pressure of 908. Now, 920 and below is Category 5 status. Now, if we're talking 908, that is well within a Category 5 storm. And that is worth noting. Now, just a little fun fact stats for you. Typhoon Tip in 1979, October 12th, is, as of right now, the lowest millibar reading ever, which was at 870. That is crazy. That is winds probably in excess of 200 miles an hour. The next one on the list would be Typhoon Haiyan, I believe, Haiyan. That was in November 2003, and there are some, I guess, professional scientists that claim that they got measurements of 860, so there is a little bit of a battle, but the official lowest that we get to read on the internet and guaranteed is 870, which is drastically low, very scary, very strong storm. If that thing would go anywhere near land, we're talking total destruction. 870 pressure is just, it's basically unheard of, and that's why it's been since 1979 that we saw anything like that. So basically it goes like this. Like Category 1 is 980 pressure and above. Category 2 hurricanes would be about 979 to 965. Category 3 would be 964 to 945. And then when we get into the higher ones, we're talking 944 to 920 would be a Category 4. And then anything 920 and less is considered a Category 5 because the millibar pressure is directly related to the wind speed. So that's due to the Saffir-Simpson scale that I'm using for hurricane season. So with that said, we have 3 disturbances going on right now. 1 definite tropical depression. We have a 10% chance, actually this is just 1, I'm sorry. We have a 10% chance over 48 hours of a disturbance. Now we're going to look at why this is happening. You can clearly see that it is a highly favorable area as of today and this week for hurricanes to form. The Gulf had a hurricane been making its way this way, would certainly fuel a hurricane. It's ready to go. If a hurricane came off the west coast of Africa and made it to the Leeward Islands and then up towards the Bahamas, it would certainly strengthen right here. So these are areas where basically the conditions are perfect for cyclone formation. I shouldn't say formation, I should say favorable for sustaining cyclones if they make it into these areas. Now, if you saw a ridge strip go all the way through the Leeward Islands back towards the west coast of Africa, that means that a hurricane would basically ride that trail all the way until the forces of the atmospheric conditions let it go north or into the Gulf. So I hope I didn't explain that too quickly. I do talk about that often, though. Now, this was also courtesy in Norway. He showed me this on Ventus Sky, which I haven't used in a while. And you can see this storm grow. And the highest reading I found as far as wind speed was 157. So that is in that Category 5 range by about 2 miles an hour. By the 4th, we see this thing grow pretty substantially. We're hitting that 126 mark. By the 5th, we are getting into those 150 areas, 146, 156. Okay, that wasn't there before. 156 is technically a Category 5 storm in the Pacific Ocean heading towards the Baja region of Mexico. Then our last day is the 6th that we have as far as data, and I don't know, it looks maybe that's when it begins to slow down. If you guys notice, these storms get strong right around here, and then as they get to right to this area, they begin to die out. I believe it's due to the cooler waters and in some cases different types of shear winds. But we did have that 157 reading. There it is again, just flashed on the screen, 157. So this thing may travel for a while as a Category 5 storm if it stays this way. Now, Is that going to be the only one? We don't know, because we can't move past this date. You can see some rotation building up here. We just got to wait and see. But for the models to be projecting a Category 5 right off the bat on about 9 days' notice, it is definitely something to look out for, because, you know, these things can always take a turn for the worst and head right up to California. We do have a little path here that this thing is possibly going to follow. More than likely it will get caught up in this whirlwind and pushed out in this direction as it dies out. We just got to wait and see. That is why we do this every day. That is the point. I know I miss days, but that just has to happen sometimes. I'm here as often as I can. All my free time is spent doing this for you guys. Let's compare with the GFS. Yes, we know the GFS has been giving us some issues lately. It's not always accurate, but it happens to line up with the other models as well. So we're going to back up and we're going to take a look at this storm. We're going to see what this thing's all about. So it looks like it's coming out of the, what is that, Nicaragua, and oh God, do I want to say Madagascar, or am I going to sound like a fool? Let's just stick with Nicaragua, because I know that's over there. As we move into August 3rd, you begin to see central rotation. We're at 994 pressure. August 4th, we are in 969. And then we start dropping down to the 940s, getting pretty serious. 938, 923, 920 by August 6th. Now, as I told you before on the Saffir-Simpson scale, when it comes to the pressures, when you get into that 920, that is technically a Category 5. It basically seesaws on the strongest 4 or the weakest 5 is 920. A 919 would be a Category 5, okay? I'll pull that chart up one day and I'll show you guys so you have a visual. You can take a screenshot and you can memorize this stuff. Now we'll check out the FV3 GFS, the newer model, the one that's kind of iffy as well. But believe it or not, it is in somewhat of an agreement with these things forming. Now, if you notice, rather than one big storm, this shows two. But we get our Fujiwara effect. The bigger of the two storms, once they're within about 800 miles of each other, they begin to interact, and you can clearly see this more southern low pressure takes control of that first one, and they kind of combine. It's not the kind of combination that you would think of, although the storm does blow up quickly. I think it's just because of the area, more of a coincidence that they meet and then blow up. Usually that's not the case. It's usually the stronger of the two takes over and it kind of stays at that level. But this thing, as far as pressure, we never really see it go below 970. So there is a big discrepancy between pressures with the GFS and the FV3. But I also have the European model, which is also favoring this storm to occur around the same time. By the 5th, we have our 1,000 millibars rotation, so we are heading in that direction of hurricane. And then very quickly, it drops pressure, 990. That would be just under a Category 1 storm. And then we move forward, if it lets me, and then we hit the 979. So this technically, by the end of the data, would be a Category 2. So you could see how the models are different. They call for different readings and wind speeds, and that's because of the amount of time we have between now and that time. As these dates get closer, we're going to get more detailed data. But whenever you see a central pressure of 920 or below, you definitely want to know about that. And in fact, about 2 hours before Norway sent me a link, I took this snapshot. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that number or not, but that says 908. That is worlds different than a 920, which is a Category 5. So I just want you to take that in for a second. So we're anywhere from a 908 pressure Category 5 superstorm, if this becomes a 908 hurricane, ranging all the way to a possible Category 1, based on the European model. So once again, it's the timing, it's the amount of time between now and when this data begins to come together and make sense. So I know some people get discouraged over that. They're like, why do you even report on it if it's not going to be accurate data? It's because we want to learn how these things work and how they move and form, and we want to know about them beforehand. Like, if you keep repeating something in your head, when it comes around to where it becomes an issue, you're mentally prepared. Your mind switches on. You're like, yeah, I know about that. You warn your friends, you tell family members if need be, and that's that. So, I mean, it's a very simple concept. And in fact, I actually have the chart pulled up for you now. So, for those of you that want to take a screen cap of this, this is how we measure the pressures based on kilometers compared to miles per hour. So you could see 156 miles per hour and higher is a Category 5. With the Category 5 speeds, the wind speeds that high, you're looking at less than 920 millibars of pressure. So that's how you match this up. And again, 944 to 920 is that seesaw. The 920 seesaws on a 4 and a 5. And then we got 964 to 945, 979, 965, so on and so forth. So, and then you get a basic storm surge idea of what to expect if that hurricane were to make landfall. It's all very good data. It's just a matter of where these hurricanes go to then use this data to find out what's going to happen in those areas. So I am not telling you there's a hurricane coming that's going to slam into Southern California or to the Baja. Chances are this thing will come out this way and just die out. But Category 5 hurricanes, they should never go unnoticed. I don't care where they are. They could be on Mars, even though Mars, you know, maybe that's a bad choice of words. But if there were a Category 5 hurricane on Mars, I'd be covering it. Let's just put it that way. Now, onto the U.S. You can see this lightning everywhere. Where there's lightning, there's storms. So the U.S. is getting pretty saturated. We got a lot going on. I posted that video of the storm that I filmed myself from my porch. That's about this stuff right here. That was this lightning that was moving its way up the East Coast. We still have that high pressure in the Bermuda Atlantic. The Atlantic Ocean, the center of the Atlantic Ocean, we call the Bermuda Atlantic. And the reason we do that is because it is basically a pressure bubble. It's our storms wrap around it. And if I were to do regional sectors here, you can see a little bit more into the Atlantic Ocean. This pressure bubble here determines why hurricanes start down this way, because it's a circle of pressure, and then they get to ride down as far as that pressure lets them. If the pressure releases, if the high pressure comes up, the hurricane's going to come up. They naturally want to head north. They spin counterclockwise. They naturally want to go north unless there's a force keeping it down. Same exact situation with Irma. Irma was expected to come right up the east coast of Florida. They had everybody move to the west coast immediately, and even into the Panhandle. And then just as Irma got towards the Bahamas, guess what? It just kept going because we had a jet stream issue. The jet stream was very low, and the jet stream pushed that storm down, and that's why it ended up hitting Naples. First it hit Cuba, dying it down 2 categories. So had it not hit Cuba, again, just talking to my buddy Norway, we would have total devastation on the west coast of Florida still right now. Like, a year later is not long enough to rebuild a Category 4 storm that damages a coastline. So we would still be talking about that today, like we talk about those other storms, the ones that destroyed Puerto Rico and all that stuff last year with those 10 named storms. So again, guys, just daily data is very important. It's important to learn the charts and learn their movements. And the last thing I want to say, which I've been saying in the last couple videos, but it's really important, we have a massive dip in the jet stream. Now, what that is basically a force field. We do have some moisture making it through. There are some storms in central. We could see that with the lightning. But you see how this is basically like a big strip right here. We have that jet stream coming down. The front wall of it is coming right up this way. So that's pushing moisture into the direction of the ocean. But then that high pressure in the Bermuda Atlantic is pushing back on it, and it's forcing this water in one direction. That is straight up the east coast. And that is why we've had all these floods and flash floods, and the storm that I filmed all along the East Coast states, and it's going to stay like that for a little bit. It depends on how much moisture decides to come out of the Caribbean. So basically, as of right now, we're pretty lucky that we don't have a hurricane heading in this direction, because if it gets caught up in this belt right here, this hurricane would ride every single one of these states based on the pressures that we have right now. So let's count our blessings right now that it's not August, because again, that is when Hurricane Harvey hit, was August, and then after that it was game on for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I knew the scientists were going to start coming back on their forecast of a weak season because things are changing. El Nino is forming. A lot of different scenarios are coming into place basically just on time for the peak season of the Atlantic hurricane season. And with that going on, we still have plenty of action going on in the Pacific Ocean. I mean, we could be dealing with a Category 5 storm within the next 5, 6, 7 days. So we're going to keep an eye on this. We're going to keep an eye on the U.S. heat wave. Lots of areas in the country being just totally destroyed by heat, crops, everything. It's going to affect the U.S. Directly based on shipments we have with other countries. That's why world weather is so important, and that's why I try to get to different parts of the world. It's hard sometimes with the time I have, you know, being off work. I usually get 2 days off now on the weekend, so I try to pump out as much info as I can. But that leaves me 5 days of trying to get a video out and trying to keep you guys up to date. So, alright, I've rambled enough. Again, 157 is a Category 5 storm. That is 920 millibars and below. That is expected by multiple charts. We have the entire area of the Pacific, the entire Gulf, all the way up the East Coast of the Carolinas, and then a big section that goes out into the Atlantic Ocean just above Puerto Rico, Haiti, and Dominican Republic, which, if storms begin to form here, they are capable of producing cyclones. So that's why you want to look out for these red colors, highly favorable. And I believe that's it for this video. I think this was long enough. Alright guys, I appreciate your patience. This is video number 2 for today. I'm going to try for a third. If not, we're going to do a double tomorrow, unless something happens on the planet that everyone needs to know right away. So again, I appreciate every single one of you that leave the comments below. 99% of you are just amazing people, and it's nothing but support, and I couldn't thank you enough, because it keeps me motivated to do this stuff, knowing that it helps people. And then we got some really good people that are always in the comments section doing extra work to help. Like I said, Norway tracking. There are others. I apologize for not naming you guys. It would take me a long time, but just me and Norway were just talking, so I figured, you know, I'd give him a little shout out for sending me a bunch of information. So that's it for now, guys. It's hot, it's raining, there's lightning, there's hurricanes, there's earthquakes. Oh man, what's going on here? It feels like we're in a pinball machine, you know what I mean? Alright, no more lame jokes. And the mountain gear, that was, you know, that was kind of a joke, even though I would climb that mountain. Alright, I'm going to let you guys go now. Sorry about that. Have a great rest of your afternoon. I might see you this evening. If not, then tomorrow morning. As always, guys, take care. Bye-bye.